Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're venturing deep into the heart of the world's highest peaks, to the remote, frozen landscapes of the Himalayas. Why? Because we're on the hunt for a legend. A creature that has captured the human imagination for centuries, a mystery whispered on the wind and etched into the folklore of the mountains. We're talking, of course, about the Yeti, the Abominable Snowman. Is it a real, undiscovered primate? A relic from a bygone era hiding in the vast, unexplored wilderness? Or is it simply a myth, a fantastic tale born from misinterpreted sightings and the power of human belief? In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of this incredible story. We'll trek through history, examine the evidence, and separate fact from fiction. So grab your warmest jacket, because our expedition into the unknown starts right now. The story of the Yeti, as we know it in the West, really exploded in the early 20th century. Before that, tales of wild, hairy, man-like creatures were deeply woven into the spiritual traditions of local Himalayan communities, like the Sherpa people. They had names like Medii, which translates to man-bear, and these beings were respected and feared as spirits of the wilderness, guardians of the mountains. They weren't just monsters. They were part of the natural and spiritual order of things. But then, Western explorers started pushing into these remote regions. In 1921, a British expedition, led by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Howard Berry, was attempting to map Mount Everest. They found enormous, human-like footprints in the snow at a dizzying altitude of over 21,000 feet. Their Sherpa guides immediately identified them as belonging to the Matokan-mi, or man-bear snowman. The story got back to the press. A journalist named Henry Newman, who wasn't fluent in the local dialects, mistranslated mito, which can mean filthy or dirty, as abominable. And just like that, the Abominable Snowman was born. This was the era of grand expeditions. Fueled by a spirit of adventure and the desire to conquer the world's last frontiers, one of the most famous pieces of evidence from this time is a photograph taken by mountaineer Eric Shipton in 1951 while exploring the Minland Glacier. Shipton and his partner Michael Ward stumbled upon a fresh, clear track in the snow. It was a single footprint, about 13 inches long, with distinct toes and a broad heel. It looked remarkably like a giant human's footprint, but it was clearly not from a boot. The photograph became an icon of cryptozoology. A tantalizing piece of visual evidence that seemed to prove something unknown was walking the high Himalayas. For many, this was the smoking gun. Another major expedition was funded by the Daily Mail newspaper in 1954. This massive undertaking included scientists, mountaineers, and a large team of Sherpas. While they didn't capture a Yeti, they did collect hair samples and plaster casts of footprints. They even brought back stories from monks at the Pangbosh Monastery who claimed to possess the scalp and skeletal hand of a Yeti. These relics, which we'll talk more about later, only added fuel to the fire. Perhaps the most ambitious hunt was launched by American oil tycoon Tom Slick in the late 1950s. He poured a fortune into multiple expeditions, employing seasoned explorers and even offering a huge reward for the capture of a live Yeti. Despite their high-tech gear and determination, they came back empty-handed with only more footprint casts and second-hand stories to show for their efforts. The Yeti, it seemed, was proving to be an incredibly elusive quarry. So, we have these incredible stories, these compelling photos, and a mountain of eyewitness accounts. But what does modern science have to say about all this? This is where the mystery takes a fascinating turn. For years, the only physical evidence we had were those plaster casts and the alleged relics from monasteries like the famous Pangbosh hand and scalp were revered for centuries. In the 1950s, a piece of the hand was actually smuggled out of Nepal for testing. Early analysis suggested it was from an unknown primate. It was a bombshell. However, decades later, with the advent of DNA analysis, the truth was finally revealed. In 2011, DNA testing on that same sample proved conclusively that it came from a human. The scalp, too, was tested. It turned out to be made from the hide of a siro, a type of goat antelope native to the region. This became a recurring theme. In 2014, A major genetic study was conducted by Professor Brian Sykes at Oxford University. He and his team analyzed hair samples from all over the world that were attributed to the Yeti and other mysterious primates. The results were surprising. Many of the Himalayan samples didn't match any known animal in the modern database. For a moment, it seemed like they had found something. But when they compared the DNA to the genome of a 40,000-year-old polar bear fossil, they found a perfect match. The theory was that a previously unknown hybrid of a polar bear and a brown bear could be living in the Himalayas. But a few years later, in 2017, an even more comprehensive study was published. This team, led by Dr. Charlotte Lindquist, analyzed 9 Yeti samples, including bone, tooth, skin, hair, and fecal matter collected from monasteries and caves. This time, the results were definitive. 8 of the 9 samples came from known animals, specifically the Himalayan brown bear and the Tibetan brown bear. The 9th sample was from a dog. It turns out that the Himalayan brown bear is one of the most ancient lineages of brown bears on Earth, having diverged from other populations hundreds of thousands of years ago. They are rare, elusive, and known to walk on their hind legs at times, which could easily lead to a misidentification from a distance. Their footprints, when partially melted and distorted by the sun, can look uncannily human-like, which explains the famous Shipton photograph. So, does this mean the case is closed? Is the Yeti nothing more than a case of mistaken identity? Well, it's not quite that simple. While science has provided a very strong explanation for the physical evidence, it doesn't entirely erase the cultural significance or the power of the legend itself. The myth of the Yeti isn't just about a monster. For the people of the Himalayas, it's a story that teaches respect for nature. The Yeti represents the wild, untamable spirit of the mountains. It's a reminder that no matter how much we map and conquer, there are parts of our world that remain beyond our full control and understanding. It's a symbol of the wilderness we must protect. And let's be honest, there's a part of us that wants to believe. The idea that a large, undiscovered creature could still be hiding in the remote corners of our planet is incredibly exciting. It speaks to our innate sense of wonder and our desire for mystery in an increasingly known world. The Himalayas cover a vast, rugged area, much of which is still incredibly difficult to access. Can we say with 100% certainty that there's nothing else out there? Probably not. So, while the scientific evidence points strongly towards the Himalayan brown bear as the real-life source of the Yeti legend, the story is far from over. The myth lives on in the hearts and minds of people around the world. It continues to inspire us to explore, to question, and to look at the world with a sense of awe. The Yeti is more than just an animal. It's an idea, a mystery that reminds us that there's still magic and wonder to be found, if you just know where to look. What do you think? Is there a chance a real Yeti is still out there, or is it all just a fascinating mix of folklore and misidentified bears? Let me know your theories down in the comments below. I'd love to read what you think about this enduring mystery. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into the mountains.